Hello and welcome to the Dieselpumpuk UK channel. We are going to find out which is better, the Dieselpumpuk UK cast inlet manifold and the Mercedes factory turbo inlet manifold. Let's put this manifold and the stock one on the flow bench and the engine dyno to see which one is crowned king of the inlet manifolds of today's test at Dieselpumpuk UK. We are on the Superflow SF 1020 test bench. For those of you at home that don't know what a flow bench is, this machine basically allows us to be able to test the airflow of our components. Things like inlet manifolds, cylinder heads, exhausts, pipeworks, pretty much anything you want, you could adapt to this machine and it will either blow or suck air through it, and it will tell you the resistance of the flow based on resistance. It's quite exciting. So today's test, we're going to be testing at 28 inches of water for this inlet, and it's going to give us a CFM reading of how much air these two manifolds can flow. These, by the way, are our own designed, machined in-house at Dieselpumpuk UK, and these are the sort of mid-range. These are like our budget inlet manifold. So good performance, but not quite as bling and mega as the billet stuff. We're not doing the billet stuff today because it's a bit of an unfair comparison. Should we jump straight into it and see what happens? To initiate the test, what we're going to do, I've got a form. This is stock inlet manifold. So stock turbo version, manufacturer Mercedes, test pressure 28 inches of water, inlet diameter 2.5 inches. So we're going to see first up what the max flow CFM is. Now the machine's really loud. That's the screen we're going to be looking at. And that central line there is going to tell us the CFM. Are we ready? It's going to be noisy. Let's go. $485. I think I saw 486 at one point. So 486 CFM. Interesting information. Now, that isn't where we are going to stop there, because there's something really, really critical about an inlet manifold that you need to know. Because if you are building your build, you've put an 8.5mm Dieselpumpuk UK pump on. Of course, you'll buy our pumps, because when you buy our pumps, you get our support with the rest of the build. When you put the 8.5mm pump on, that's calibrated so that all your cylinders get the same amount of fuel. Your injectors then also have a responsibility to deliver the same amount of fuel to each cylinder, which they will if they've been calibrated or built correctly by Dieselpumpuk UK. Now, what we don't know or can't control is the amount of air that is sent to each cylinder. Now, when we do a flow test like this, if you want to come around this side, when we do a flow test like this, we're pushing air up this pipe, and we've basically got the inlet manifold connected to a head without valves in it. It would make the test extremely complex if we were to put the valves into the system and then start taking one valve out, turning the cam at a certain position. So there are factors of this which are not the same as running it on an engine. I'm going to turn on this bench, and I've done this test before. And what happens is, because this pipe going into the inlet manifold is directly in line with this runner, which feeds cylinder number 3, what it does is it blasts air at a vicious rate out of mainly cylinder number 3 and not so much out of the other cylinders. Now that's a bad thing, isn't it? You'll be watching this and you'll be saying, well, no, because the valves will be closed and it will allow pressure to build up in the manifold and it'll distribute more evenly. Yes, it will. It will distribute more evenly, but it will still mimic exactly what I'm trying to show you today of more air coming from here because it's an easier path for it to go. To demonstrate this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a homemade heat-top pipe. I've probably said that totally wrong. It gives us a velocity measurement at each valve. Now, the primary design for this is to go inside a port, to be able to put it into the corners of the port and measure the speed of the gas, so that you can find out if you've got basically a high pressure zone or a high speed gas zone, which would suggest that air is having to be forced around something. It's useful for porting engines and things like that. Now today, obviously, I'm not doing that. I'm basically going to sort of roughly go over each port, and I'm going to find a number. I'm going to try and find an average point so I can give you guys at home an indication of which port is flowing more air than the others, because that's really all we want to see. It's not the most accurate way of doing it, but it's kind of the only way I can think of doing it for you in this test, because you can't feel what I can feel. So it's this section here. This is the velocity, so it's port velocity in feet per second. Turn in the bench. Right, so with that one, what we've seen is it's stabilised, it's kind of going up and down, and it's stabilised around 15. So I'm going to write 15 down for that one. Right, so we've got those CFM numbers and we've got some port velocity idea for you. And this is what I want to show you. This is cylinder 1, this is cylinder 2, and this is cylinder 3, because obviously there's 2 valves per cylinder. And this cylinder 3, this one, is the one that is in line with this pipe. So you can see, look how high the velocity numbers are in comparison to, you know, the outermost ones. That's a really big difference. So what I'll do a little bit later on is I'll work out a percentage difference between that one and the outer one, so we can see what some cylinders are getting fed compared to others. This is not good, you know, because you're going to be pounding that engine trying to push 500 horsepower, and that cylinder there is going to be doing great. It's going to be loving that cold air. It's going to have a really nice air fuel mixture. Whereas these ones, they're going to get hit with the exact same amount of fuel that this one is, but it's not going to be able to burn it. It's going to be black smoke and heat, black smoke, and generally damage to your engine. Often we see with big horsepower stuff that's been pushed really hard, that the rearmost cylinders can take the most pain, and that can often be an airflow or sometimes a cooling lack to the rear of the engine. So interesting data. Let's take this one off. This cylinder head is factory, it's not been ported, it's all standard sizes. In the assembly of putting on the Dieselpumpuk UK one, first we have to fit this base plate. So the base plate has these nice little velocity stacks, and these being the sort of mid-range of the Dieselpumpuk UK stuff, there are still some casting marks. You know, these could easily be improved by you guys at home. If you're hobbyists like I am, you know, I'd receive something like that and you could run it. It's very, very nice. Or if you wanted to go make this basically nearly as good as our billet ones, you could just tickle a sand around there and spend a bit of time polishing those. But the point is, hopefully, I'm going to show you that you make gains without having to do that, just by bolting it on. So you can see casting marks, this hasn't been ported or polished or modified. So we bolt the base on. The nice thing about having a separate base and lid is obviously you can port the internal shapes, and it allows the lid to be used both ways, reversible. Spend a bit of time and line your ports up. Just have a look through those holes. Just spend a bit of time when you fit your manifold on and just align those ports so that it aligns nicely. Because you're leaving some power on the table there by not doing that. The lid is also rough cast on the inside, so it'll be free of burrs or anything that could damage your engine, but again, if you want to go mad, you could polish the inside of this and you can get a few more horsepower. You can't do that with a stock manifold because well, you'd have to chop it up to do so. Right, let's pop the lid on. O-ring is in place already. So what was the previous reading? 486 on the stock manifold. 486. So that is what we need to beat. We need to beat 486. Are we ready? Watching this little middle line to see. Nice gain, nice gain. 576, I actually saw 580 at one point, but I'd say 576 is a nice number. So 576 compared to 486, that is a nice gain. And this isn't ported. This isn't ported. I also technically helped the stock manifold, because if you notice, look what's bolted to the stock manifold. That's a nice machined piece, isn't it? But you'll notice that there's something missing from the inside of that. So if that was a stock one on a stock car, less airflow. So 576 CFM, so we've got a nice big bump in CFM. Winner. Now we need to find out about that port velocity. Let's see if we can take some averages and see if the dispersion across the cylinders is better. Because in testing, I don't know if I can show this, but it feels more even. It feels more even. That's not scientific. So let's get some proper data. Right, let's have a quick look at the results then. So, stock version 486 CFM, our version 576 CFM. That's a 19% increase in airflow, which is good because that's going to make everything happier in your engine. Then we've got the difference between the velocity of the ports. Now obviously, like I said before, this is a difficult one to quantify because we aren't doing it with the valves in and sort of pressure on that side of the port, but it certainly gives you a visual, some sort of, because you can't feel, like my hand can feel the air coming out of some ports and not others, but this gives you at least a visual of how that air is coming out with a bit of airspeed measured by this machine. So we've got on the stock one, a 46% difference, 15 feet per second on the slowest ports and 24 on the fastest ones, being right in line with the inlet tube. And then on ours, we've got a 38% difference, which is 8% better than stock for keeping the cylinders somewhat even, which is good, where we're ranging sort of from 19 to 28. Right, so now we've given you some proof as to how our manifold is beating the stock one in airflow and in distribution of gas, which is awesome, whilst all in the meantime being more compact and easier to fit in the engine bay, a lot more aesthetically pleasing. That is a very big point to make, isn't it? Look at the difference in size. Imagine the space saving in your engine bay. That is absolutely phenomenal. With this, you can't get to the stock injector pump, you can't get to anything underneath there, it's a total pain. You've got to take all this off every single time. Whereas with ours, you can get to the injector pump, it's literally right there. For conversions, builds, or even if you're just doing something that's fast, this is a big gain. And I would say that. Send me your inlet manifolds and I'll test them as well. Right, so we showed some cool data on the flow bench. Now, I think we should really put this stuff to the test let's put this manifold and a stock one on the engine dyno. Right, as if by magic, we've gone from one end of the workshop doing the flow bench stuff to the other end of the workshop where we're doing engine dyno stuff. Test control parameters for this test are as follows. The injection pump is an 8.5mm Dieselpumpuk UK unit. The maximum fueling is set to 125cc, which you're thinking is not a lot, but you're going to see it's going to give some nice figures. Also, the turbo system, if you'd like to join me at the other side of the engine, is our quick spool race kit, and that quick spool race kit has a Turbo Smart high pressure wastegate on there, and that is set with a spring, a 35 psi spring inside. So that spring rate is just as it is. We're not controlling the boost with any external controller. So 35 psi. The exhaust system on the test setup, 3-inch off the turbo goes to 4-inch straight away, and then we go 4-inch to 6-inch, and 6-inch exits the building. Intercooler setup. Intercooler, 2.5-inch off the turbo, and then into a 3-inch, and then that's a 100mm core intercooler. That is a bar and plate style intercooler. What do we know about bar and plate intercoolers? They're good for quite some time until they get heat soak, and then they start to struggle to pull that heat back out. So very good for things like drag racing and stuff, and maybe not the right type of intercooler for something else like endurance racing. So a bit of interesting information for you there. The engine is a fully rebuilt OM606 that we built for a customer. It's got the 0.5mm oversized pistons, so these are 87.5mm pistons. It's been fully machined, fully rebuilt. Head's got some upgraded valve springs in there, just our street ones, not the race ones. This is the engine that had a crack in the block, which you can see if I show you with a torch. Hang on. There you go, look. You see how it's got that plate, that cover plate? That's covering up a naughty little crack. Which, you know, is the reason why it isn't going out to a customer. So it's become our dyno engine. Oh, and down here at the bottom, it's using our rear sump, which has our oil pump and everything else in there. Test data are being recorded via various sensors. So just to name a few, we're measuring fuel pressure, we're measuring fuel flow, we've got boost pressure at the inlet, boost pressure at the turbo, we've got temperature pre and post intercooler, so we can see how much air heat is coming from the turbo and how much the intercooler cools that down. We've got crankcase pressure, so we're monitoring blow-by, we've got oil temperature, we've got a lambda probe in the exhaust, just one. We have 6 if we want to read all 6 cylinders, and we're measuring exhaust gas pressure at the manifold using a curly whirly so that it doesn't burn the pipe. Curly whirly. So exhaust pressure comes out of here. This is one of our manifolds, and I've just drilled and tapped a port, and then it goes down the pipe, measures it. And then we're also monitoring exhaust gas temperature at the outlet of the turbine. There's probably other stuff, but that's all you need to know for now. Let's find out what this thing does. I'm excited. And it started, so that's always a good sign. And I'll give it a few revs just to help it warm up a little. Right, here we go. So, what did we do? This is raw data, so avoid the squiggly line. I'll change that in a second. But let's just do best 2 out of 3 runs, and then I will arrange the data. C to bypass, prompts. Stabilising at 1,000. Are we ready? Right, here we go. We're going in. We're going in. Nice. Oil temp there, we were just getting over 100. So that's nice. We'll give it a second just to cool down. And then we shall manage the data and have a look and see what we got. Stock inlet gave us 404, 406. So let me just zoom out. I'd done that on purpose so you could just see all the numbers. About that, around about 404 to 406. So what we should do is write that down on the clipboard. Where's it gone? Ah. So we're going to do...
You didn't ask me for a column for horsepower.
Stock version 404. Oh, my brain's gone to 406 horsepower. And obviously we're going to overlay these so you'll be able to see where it takes over and stuff. We might be able to change the colour of it by changing the name of it. We'll do something. So now I've got to take that back off and put the Dieselpumpuk UK cast one on. It's just nice and warm. The intercooler's been doing its job. I think we saw 200 degrees at the turbo side of the intercooler and about 60 at this side, something like that. We'll be able to analyse all that data later. But, right, let's do a swap so we can do a like for like. And she's off. And off it comes. This is what you'd have to do just to get to your injector pump. Mercedes, they didn't care. Do you know why? Mercedes only put EDC pumps under these, and you don't need to go under there. It's just wires. It's like the matrix underneath one of these normally on a normal engine. Agents and Morpheus. The bolts are already in it still because that's the kind of guy I am. The inlet manifold is on, and now we are ready to do the, what I'd like to call, superior power pull. We'll do 3 runs again like we did last time, see where we get. Back to back. I can see some gains already. So we've gone 404 was best, 413, but what is interesting is these little curves here. Let's just see how that escalates as we do some more runs as it warms up a little. Let's do another one. I think that was a little bit higher again. It's just getting better every time. I'm tempted just to do another run. I am tempted to, I am tempted to do some more runs because we had done a few practice ones on the previous. I'll do another 2 just because I enjoy doing it. I got another 1.2 horsepower. Nice. Just for a bit of fun, why don't you have a look round this side so you can see that wastegate glow? The good news, Mr. Wastegate, is you made an extra 6 horsepower. Now this is all on 125cc. Conclusion of the grey inlet manifold debate. Better access. Is it going to cost us power? No, I didn't let you down. It gained us some power. Shall we have a look at the figures? So stock inlet, this one, original Mercedes turbo version, the one that gave us 486 CFM, that gave us 404 to 406 horsepower on its runs, 445.9 pounds-feet of torque. What did this give us? This gave us 426 horsepower and 468 pounds-feet of torque. To put it simply, this gave us 5% more torque, 5.5% more power, and it gave us, I think, 2 or 3 psi less boost, which means less resistance from the turbo to here, which is quite exciting. That means less pain on your turbo, which that might be how we picked up the power. So if we have a little look here, and this is the important thing for the naysayers, everybody that sees one of these manifolds, which is short, are instantly going to come out with that comment of, oh, longer runners is more torque. Yes, well, when you see all the big commercial industrial engines, do you ever see them with like really long runners? You know, big intake stacks like a Formula One car? No. Where has that notion even come from? Why are people saying it? So this dark green line here shows us the power of the short runner, the DPUK one with the more power. This one below it is the factory. And as you can see, the green one is higher throughout the entire range. It comes very, very close here at the crossover, but throughout the rest of the range, it is higher. So the moral of the story is, the conclusion that you can take away, you can have more power, NA even, with that manifold. And then when you start to push it big and the boost kicks in, you're going to see some real gains. So I think you should click on the website now and buy one. Bye for now, and thanks for watching.